Anyway, so we're talking about this around the table, and one of the things we love to do on Friday night, and I don't know what you do for Friday night, activities with your family or whatever, but when Friday night comes along, it's one of my favorite times because we like to sit there and take cold calls from salespeople. You're probably on the don't call me list, but we're not. We're on the do call me list. We love when salespeople call us. I like to hear their value proposition. I love when Discover Card calls me and tells me, gets on the phone and says, hello, is this David Stelzl from Big Buck Trail, blah, 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 and they rattle all this stuff off to make sure it's really me, even though I just said Dave Stelzl. And usually when they're partway through their pitch, I'll stop them. And I'll say, hey, stop, wait. This is not the way to get my attention on Friday night during dinner. There's a better way. Let me explain to you how to get someone's attention on a phone call. Usually they laugh and, don't really want to know because they're just being quoted on number of calls. And then we have the Pitney Bowes salespeople. I love the Pitney Bowes company. In fact, I just met a guy who left Pitney Bowes because their technology's kind of fallen behind. And they call me, or they have called me in the past, over and over and over again. If you own your own business, they call you because they want to sell you a stamp machine, a postage machine. And so every week I'd get a call from someone who's fairly new to the organization. I always ask them, are you new with Pitney Bowes? I know they're new because nobody would call me a second time. And they're trying to sell me this machine. And so I stop the guy and I say, well, what's your value proposition? Tell me, just stop with all the sales stuff and just get right to the point. What is it that I really need here? And he says to me, you'll never have to go to the post office again. I said, I never go to the post office. Who goes to the post office? I just go on USPS.com, print off some postage, slap it on there, put it on the front step, schedule pickup, and it's gone. I don't go to the post office anymore. And so I said to him, who goes anymore? And he said, well, what about people who don't have internet connectivity? I said, name for me someone who doesn't have internet connectivity that you've called on in the last 2 weeks. He laughed and hung up. Our all-time favorite, though, is the ChemLawn guy. And we still have a plaque in our hall for this guy. His name's Scott. Scott one day sent us a card, and it said, free lawn assessment. How many have had a free lawn assessment? All right, good. Some of you have. You know where I'm coming from. Well, in North Carolina, where I live, this is not my lawn, let me tell you. We live on this big clay field, and it's solid clay. It's like living in the bottom of a flower pot that has no dirt in it. And we get this thing in the mail, and my office manager, who happens to be one of my daughters, comes in, and she's throwing away my mail for me like she usually does, and she comes across this card, and she says, do you want this card, free lawn assessment? I said, yeah. Are you kidding? Not only do we get a cold call, let's get the guy over here. This is exciting. Fill that thing out. So she schedules it, and Scott comes over, and when he gets to the door, I come out to the front porch there, and I've got all 7 kids with me. My wife is hiding in the kitchen. She gets embarrassed when I do stuff like this. I don't think she would have married me if she had known. And so we're out there, and Scott's going to go do an assessment. Now, it's clear to me my lawn is dead. There's no reason to assess anything. But he's out there. It's like 100 degrees out. And he's looking at dirt and fire ants and gummy ball trees and big crevices from the heat heating up the clay and cracking it. And he comes back after about 30 minutes with his forms, and he's getting ready to go over. And I said, well, hold on, Scott. I want you to explain to my kids here, because we're kind of homeschooling and we're trying to learn about this stuff. What is the unique value proposition for ChemLawn? He's thinking, he's been to class. He's been to that essentials class that you guys put on. And he's thinking, I know they told me that. Finally, he spits out, ChemLawn is where lawns mean more. I said, Scott, that's a tagline, not a value proposition.